So this is called the Cultivate Countdown. The goal is to talk to each professional and basically get advice from a practitioner, somebody who's actually doing the work. What would you say are the essential steps to your job?
You're definitely going to check emails. You're definitely going to make calls. You're going to be, I don't want to say cold calling, not really cold calling, right? We know what cold calling is.
I mean, yeah, I do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
For sure.
exactly. Exactly. See who wants to do what, but you got to be able to talk to people, man. That's just I mean, and of course do your research on people that you're talking to, because what's going to happen is you're going to know certain things about a job or about somebody that you're calling, but you may not know everything about it. But at least if you have something that can help you initiate the conversation, or if you know how to approach people, and say, hey, I want to know what it is that you do, and then figure out not only what they do, but maybe how you can fit what you're doing into what they're doing, or how it can be a smooth transaction both ways, right? You want to be able to benefit them, but they also want to be able to benefit you. So you want to be able to, kind of have that list of what you should ask them, what you should say to certain people. But like I said, the essentials that you need to have, you got to be able to talk to people. That's one of the biggest things. And kind of plan things out, right? So you want to have a timeline. So, it's one of the things that we do in the beginning of the year. We make out a timeline. Do we hit everything? No, but we try to make sure we hit everything on that list. So we create a timeline of things that we want to do, objectives, and then we put dates behind those things. So yeah, just kind of staying on top of that day to day.
Welcome to another edition of the Imagine Exposure Vodcast. Man, I got a special guest. This is probably, when I think about the guests outside of my parents, I had my mom on. I've had different family members. So outside of my family members, the person who I say that I have known, at least in terms of growing up together, going back to the days of Clark Middle School, back in the day, Andre Wilkinson High School, and just seeing his story has just been phenomenal. And what I think God has done a lot of incredible things. And I think he has so much insight that he can give to our current viewer, right? And so I am talking about none other than Zach Thomas. How you doing, bro? Welcome to the podcast.
What's happening, man? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. The question that we ask out the gate is, who are you and how do you define yourself?
Zach Thomas, man. Zachary Thomas, but I go by Zach, ZT. So I'm family man, right? Love music, love basketball, right? Love shoes, right? Sneakers, right? I'm really big on sneakers. I definitely love my family, man. I love my friends, right? My friend circle, and I'm a professor. I'm a director for entrepreneurship program at South Carolina State, and I'm a mentor.
Absolutely, and just has so much insight. So I know we're going to get into that. But what would you say is your story? If you had to talk about, and you could make that as broad or as narrow as you want to do it. But what is your story?
Originally I was born in Houston, right? Houston, Texas. A lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was born in Houston. I moved to South Carolina and I was finishing the second grade, right? I was going into the third grade. So I started at Marshall here in Orangeburg. One of my first classes, I can't remember, Miss Pace. Miss Pace was her name, my third grade teacher. I had Miss Eck, my boy SP, Miss Eck in fourth grade. And then I met a lot of my friends between that time, right? Some of my friends that I'm still friends with to this day. And then I went to Clark, of course. That's when me and you met. Right. Always been really big on music, so I was in the band, right? I always played basketball and things like that, but I never played for the school. I was outside in neighborhoods and stuff like that. Of course, everybody went to OW, so that was the experience. Right, had some ups and downs there, right? And I appreciate OW so much. The reason why is because, and I wouldn't change my experience, although I made a lot of bad choices or poor choices, I guess. But I guess they helped shape me. And a lot of things that I learned while I was at OW, although, may be considered, not the right thing to do. They help me avoid a lot of pitfalls later on in life. Right, I still made some bad choices, but a lot of things that I experienced in high school helped me to not experience those things as I got into college, and then when I got out of college. So that was really cool. I was with class 2006. We all graduated, and we of course I went to Winthrop in Rock Hill, and I met a lot of my really close friends there too. Right, some of my closest partners now I met when I went to school, and upon graduating, I was getting ready to graduate. Had some rough life circumstances that happened. Right, lost a really close friend of mine in a bad accident, Raheem Harrison. So I'm definitely gonna shout him out, Ronnie. Of course, it's bad choices again, but and that's one of the things that I learned. Everything that you do, whether good or bad, is going to lead to some type of consequence, right? So it's either going to be a good consequence or a bad consequence. Actually, saw something today online. I can't remember who posted it, but the post was, life can be summed up in 4 words. It's a seed, it's a plant, grow, and harvest. Right? So, anything that you do in life, you're going to be planting, right? Whether it's going to be good or bad, and you got to watch it grow. And then at some point, you're going to harvest it, right? So you reap what you sow. And that's one of the things that I've learned. And I mean, I've learned a lot of life lessons just through, ups and downs, and then family members and friends, and my own personal experiences, right? So I enjoyed. I think that's kind of what's led me to be where I am now. I'm active in the church. I'm happy about that too, right? I go to New Mount Zion, so that's part of my story. My children, definitely. I look at them, of course, legacy, right? Continuation, not necessarily of me, but a portion of me, right? Things that I instill in them. My wife, and our family, and then of course my friends, right? I love to see my friends succeed. So like what you're doing, man, it's just beautiful, man. And I got a couple of my other friends, they're doing podcasts too. Got one of my friends, he owns a food truck. Another one of my friends, got a couple of them that they're doing music, right? And they're doing really good in their music. So it's really cool to see stuff like that, man. I'm a big advocate for success, and success can come from anywhere. All right, so.
That's dope. I mean, and there's just so many different layers to a lot of what you said. Even with the thing that really jumped out to me was when you talked about the planting and the growing and the harvest, and that's what cultivation is all about. And that's what the whole concept of Grace to Cultivate is. It's just kind of this concept of how do we help the next generation kind of just dream bigger, man. You know what I mean? In the sense of, it's one thing to work a 9 to 5, and that's awesome. But what does it look like to even build while on that 9 to 5? What does it look like? And kind of boil down Grace to Cultivate in 3 ways: skill building, career development, entrepreneurship. And so with that vision, that's one of the reasons why it was important to have someone like you. I didn't say it in the opening, but you're the director of innovation in the entrepreneurship hub at South Carolina State University. And that's just what you do: help the next generation cultivate and build. You do a lot on your own, but just to hear your story is important and impactful. All right. So what would you say is the biggest misconception of your job?
Again, just if you're gonna work with students, I mean, we're housed primarily on South Carolina State's campus. So working with students and students coming in and thinking, hey, I got the next Facebook, and I got the next Google. I mean, it's just not that. I mean, I'm not, and I hate to try to sound like a buzzkill or anything like that. I think a lot of students have a thought that, just because I have an idea, that means I'm going to make a lot of money. And that's not, a lot of times it's not always the case. A lot of it comes down to planning, of course, but a lot of it comes down to execution. And some people just don't execute properly, or just because you have an idea at this moment may not be the time for you to execute it at this moment. And so I want students to understand, this is one of the things that, again, you talked about this one time before, that students have to have an understanding of what can be applicable now, right? And how do you take those steps to actually, doing the small things now so that it can lead up to bigger things. And I think a lot of what students misconceive when they come in through our doors or when they talk to me is that, hey, I got an idea for a business, and it may be a clothing line, or it may be, it could be anything, right? And it's always room for that. And I cannot say you can't be successful in it, but you got to be you got to be at a place where you understand how you differentiate yourself, right? How are you standing out? And I think that's a lot of what people miss, right? When they say, hey, I want to start a business, hey, what are you doing to stand out, right? And it's room for everybody to eat. It's room for everybody to make money in whatever field they're in, but you have to stand out, right, from your competitors, but also you have to be appealing to your consumers, right? So again, that's what a lot of people misconceive, that, hey, it's because you have an idea, that means I'm going to start making millions, next year. And that's just not the case.
No, and I think that I think part of it has to do with like what you see on the media. You always hear about Mark Zuckerberg. You always hear about a celebrity who started some sort of tech startup, whatever. And I think that that's one of the tensions that we face, is that exposure level, right? And so part of the reason for the podcast like this is, how do we expose specifically young people to businesses that may not be as I hate to use the word sexy, but like desirable when you first look at them. But the reality is, like, the person who makes the light bulb never goes out of business. The person who makes the posters that go on the wall for educators, that's one of the things that we do, is like, it's not a cool business, but it's important, and you always have clientele. And so I think that is something that we have to be able to drive home, because it's like, what's the goal? Is the goal for everybody to look at you, or is the goal to be impactful, make a difference, and of course to be sustainable as a business? And so, so I definitely get.
I'm gonna tell you, man, and you spot on, man. And that's the beauty of social media, but it's also like the part that's harsh about it is because you have so much exposure to a lot of different things, and you see, this person doing this and this person doing that, and they being successful at it. Well, you don't know what it took for that person to get there, right? And that may be something that drives them. That with it, a lot of people see the success of it. They don't really see, kind of the grind that goes in behind it. They don't see, the preparation and the planning and the thought behind it. All they see is the final product, or the byproduct of what you do, or the result of it from what you do. And that's a really, really big misleading factor that, that plays a big part in social media. I mean, even with influencers, when we look at people that like some of these influencers and some of these people out here now, have a lot of followers, whatever the case may be, they don't know what it takes to actually get there, right? And just because 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds making millions of dollars from YouTube followings and Instagram followings and things like that, I mean, that still takes work, right? You still have to be gifted in what you're doing, right? I mean, it could be from looks, it could be from anything, but it takes a lot of work. And people don't really understand that. And a big part of that too is people are the money is appealing, right? Because we think, hey, you have to have a lot of money to feel comfortable, but that's not necessarily the case. Which kind of talks about my point. It's not about how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. You can make $40,000 and still live a really, really nice lifestyle. It depends on what you do with that money. And then you can make $100,000 and be living check to check, right? So again, it's just, I mean, it's about, and people are so caught up on comparing, and that's really a really big downfall for a lot of people, not just young people, but a lot of people is comparing yourself to other people, and you can't get caught up in that, right? But other than that, I mean, social media is a great tool, right? It helps you connect and see people and see, what new things are happening. You can learn a lot of different things that you couldn't really learn those things, 15 years ago. It'd be hard to learn some of those things.
Yeah, and I mean, I like how you went and you engaged both sides, but you're absolutely right. I mean, to see the one side of always being exposed to even like we talked about influencers. There was, I think Kevin on Stage recently put out a video, and he was just like, before he went viral the first time, I think he had almost 300 posts, 250 some odd posts that people never really saw. You know what I mean? And so it's like that. It's like you don't know what's going to take off. You don't know what's going to be the thing that people go like, oh man, you're lit. I feel like every time I put out a podcast, every time I put out any content, I'm literally learning as I go. And part of the reason is internet is so new, social media is so new. We're literally learning as we go. And so I love those points, because specifically the one about how somebody can see an influencer that's done well and go, oh, I could do that because but they don't get the hours and hours of preparation, of pre-planning, and all that scheduling that goes with social media content creation. Okay, moving right along. Who are some people in your story or your vocational story, but just people that you're grateful for? Who would you say are the people that you're grateful for?
Definitely both of my mothers. And I shout them out, Barbara Adams and Brenda Thomas.
Yeah.
You know, they've been huge in my life, just with school and just growing up, period, right? And learning the things that I've learned. They've been very, very supportive, very, very supportive. My wife, right, Robin Thomas, and she was with me in some really low points in my life.
Yeah.
And, you know, she never switched up, which is, I mean, that's really cool, right? To have a partner that's like that, right?
Absolutely.
Teachers, through school, the ones that always stand out to me, my fourth grade teacher, Miss Eck. She just was super sweet. She was a first year teacher. She was super sweet. My boy SP was in that class. Bria Hamilton was in that class. Mika Williams, she was in that class. We had a good time, man. It was real cool, man. My homeboy Dez, you know, remember Desmond Tyler?
Yep.
Yeah, Dez was in that class. So it's cool to see, like, you know, all of us grown at this point now. We got kids and, you know, doing well, and I'm just happy to see us, you know, happy and grown and, you know, handling business. And so definitely Miss Eck. High school, definitely Miss Veronica Williams, just she's super cool. She's just a cool person. She taught SAT math.
Okay.
Miss Judy Johnson, I mean, she passed away I think last year, but she was real cool too. Miss Coster, remember her name? Miss Coster. Miss Coster was real cool. And Miss Boyd. And Miss Boyd, she wasn't even there the whole year, but she was just down to earth, man. I just love when teachers can connect with you on that level. And definitely Mr. Z, Mr. Z, all right. Mr. Z, we didn't really see a lot. We didn't really see eye to eye a lot when we were in high school, but after I got out of school, man, Mr. Z was real cool, man. I ran into him.
Control fun.
Yeah, that's it. I ran into him 2%. Right? Mr. Z was crazy, man. Mr. Z didn't play, man. He was real cool, man. He after I got out of school, man, it was crazy. He went to I think he went to Eau Claire, because one of my
okay.
You know, really? one of my partners, I went to college with, he graduated from Eau Claire, so he knew him, right? So
really? Okay.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, you up there with my boy Zach? So he was always real cool. Mr. Hemby, my wife's dad, he was real solid. Miss Carson, people that weren't in school, Mr. Artist, my boy Nick, his dad, Mr. Artist, was real. Like he was a guy that was in my corner for you know, some points in my life, especially in high school, where I didn't really have a constant male figure there all the time, right? My father died when I was 10. So, you know, my brother, I got an older brother. He'd be 50 in a couple of weeks, but I mean, he lives in Texas, so, and he was living his own life, right? So, you know, he was a long way away. So it wasn't like we got a chance to see each other or talk. And we didn't really build we were really close now. We didn't really build that close relationship until I got to college anyway. But, you know, definitely Mr. Artist. These are some people that, you know, play some big roles in my life, you know, and of course my friends, right? I was just, you know, a lot of friends along the way that were really helpful and just being genuine with me, you know. And I'm still friends with a lot of them to this day.
No, man, and I think that's kind of the essence of, like, at least for me, my interpretation of you is like, I feel like, and I mean, this may be something you can talk about in the future, but your ability to connect with people and never like forget where you come from or your roots. I mean, you named people in fourth grade, you named people as elementary school. I'm quick story. So me and Zach were at this is just for the viewer. We were at a presentation at an elementary school, Sheridan Elementary School, which is where I went to school. And Zach was doing the presentation for the Innovation Center at South Carolina State. And I just posted it because I know that any post that I make about South Carolina State, and this is kind of out there for the viewer who's trying to do digital content, that is engaging your tribe. My tribe is South Carolina State University. My tribe is Orangeburg, South Carolina. My tribe is just people who have the shared experiences that I have. Anytime I can do that, I always try to do it. And when I do that, I did a post on Zach, and it went crazy. Like, from a social media standpoint, I've only had one other post that has done better than that. And the reason why is the context of the particular post that everybody, I think, recognized it was shared, it was Orangeburg, but it was also the integrity of who you are and how many people rock with you. And honestly, I believe as many people who have finished college rock with you as much as those who are more blue collar and who did not finish college, but are rooted to the community. And I think that's the testament, right? Like I've never seen you like look down on a person and be like, oh, that person's whatever. It's like, no, this is a brother or sister or a person from the community. And I think that that's one of the things that's like very endearing. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I feel like there's no real respect for you see the good and what a person can be. You're like, that's just who you are as a human being. And I think that's really dope to have that. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast. Not only in terms of what I see you already do in terms of digital on social media, but just how many people I think can hear what you're talking about in terms of helping them from an innovation entrepreneurship standpoint, and how many people hopefully will gravitate towards wanting to be a part of your program or be involved in some of the other investments that you do. So I just want to salute you like that, you know, on the podcast, because it's like, that's rare, that's real rare, you know what I mean? But I think
it's a blessing, man. It's a lot of people. Like I said, I met a lot of people, man. It's just and I mean, you one of them, man. You just I love this. Like I said, I applaud success, man. I love people. I love to see people succeed, man. That's just really cool, man. And it may not even necessarily be financially and things like that. I mean, that's important. That's important, but it's just, I love to see people, you know, shine. And I love to see people doing well. I love to see people, families grow. And like you talked about, I mean, we've known each other for a long time, man.
Yeah.
I mean, for me to see some of your accomplishments and even just to see your face. And we keep going after this. I just want to make this one point. Like, it was a few years ago, they had the homecoming, man. It was so beautiful to see everybody at OW's homecoming, man. It was real beautiful, man. Just to see people still here, you know what I mean? Because of all the things that we went through, and, you know, some questionable situations that, you know, some of us put ourselves in. And then, you know, some people, I mean, we got kids that came out there, and our kids around the same age. I mean, we got some of our classmates, you know, their kids just graduated OW. So it's just beautiful to see stuff like that, man. And, you know, the continuation. And, you know, it's sad to see some of our friends that are not here, right?
Yeah.
The first one that comes to my mind is obviously Kwame, man. I just, you know, me and Kwame weren't the closest of friends. We were always real cool with each other, though. Like, you know, we always showed love to each other, man. But, you know, Kwame was real cool, man. You could just see, you know, people moving to that next level, and he was definitely there, man. And just to see him not here no more, but, you know, the legacy that he left behind. I mean, he packed out a church. He packed out Edisto, Fort. Yeah, he packed the entire center, man. Everybody, I mean, people all over, man, all over South Carolina, people from Georgia, people everywhere, man. And they were just there to celebrate, you know, who Kwame was, and it was just beautiful to see stuff like that, man. So, you know, I think about, you know, Gumby, like Gumby's not here no more, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So yeah, it's just sad to see stuff like that, man. I mean, we lost a good bit of classmates. So to still see some of us, still see the ones that are here, even if it's just through Facebook, or if you just run into them in the store casually or whatever, it's always good to see. So.
Nah, I mean, I'm glad that you took time to kind of pause for remembrance, because you're absolutely right. Life goes on, and you look up. That's 5 years ago. That's 3 years ago. That was whatever. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I mean, you went to school with Kwame. There was another gentleman. Jamel passed away. Jerome. Like it's a lot of guys who went to school with, bro.
Yeah, forgot about Jerome. Yeah,
Akemia, right?
Yeah, Akemia, Mia.
So
Mia passed away too. Yeah,
Mia. Oh my goodness, yeah.
That was
and so it's just like you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Just how many people we went to high school with, for a variety of different, just not here. And every day is a blessing. I guess what I'm trying to say. Every day is a blessing, and treasure the people while they're here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't look back and like, oh man, I should have put a with us. Like, nah, like if you want to encourage somebody, like just stop and encourage them, and you just never know, man. You just never know. So I appreciate you pausing for that, because you're absolutely right. And the hustle and bustle of life, sometimes we just don't even think about it, but you're absolutely right. But we're still here. That's a testimony in itself. All right. Moving on from there. All right. So this particular question, kind of shifting gears, but kind of similar, is going back to childhood, right? And thinking about when we were kids, like, what would you say, thinking about what you do now as an adult, how did your childhood passion as a kid prepare you for what you do now in your adult career choice?
So I guess, but my role, of course, well, for those who don't know, but so I'm the director for entrepreneurship program here on campus, and a big part of that is connecting with people, right, and being able to talk to people. And I'm also a professor here on campus, so I teach 4 classes now. I have 4 classes, and so being able to talk to students and connect with them, and see some of my professors that are now my colleagues, and we work together in school. But being able to talk to people, I think that's one of the things that I learned early on, and relate to people from different things, right? Even if it's something that I'm unfamiliar with, find them relatable points, right? So that you can connect with people, because that's always important, right? I love being able to talk to people, right? And I've always enjoyed that, and share who I am with other people, and then learn from other people as well. And so I know a lot of people don't know this, but I did time in prison, and so while I was there, I met a lot of good brothers, and it's a big misconception about people that are locked up that everybody's there for something terrible, right? I mean, people are there for whatever reason that they're there for, but that doesn't mean that the person is wrong, right? A lot of times, those are the ones that just got caught, right? Some people out here right now committing some of the same crimes, they just haven't gotten caught. And so, so to connect with a lot of those good people that were inside, that's a lot of rotten people in there too, but they got chances to change. The point I'm making is, I met a lot of good brothers in there, and I learned a lot of life lessons. And one of the things that I learned was that, 2 things that I learned, that, and I had to sit down, right? It was God needed me to sit down, so 1, I could focus on Him, learn who He is, and then learn what, who I am in Him. And then 2, there's a lot of life lessons that, had I not gone that route and not have gone to prison, I mean, it might have taken me years to learn some of the same lessons that I learned in a year and a half. Right? And so I had to learn those things. And, like I said, one of the things a good brother in there shared with me was that it's conversations and things that I've been through in my life, that in a 15, 20 hour long podcast that we can share, that I can share, that may change someone's life forever, right? But it took me that time to learn it. It took me that amount of time to learn it. But they can learn those same life lessons and those nuggets. They can learn that in an hour, right? Or they can learn that in 15 minutes, and that's great. So it's a lot of those things that, again, from childhood to now, it has a lot to do with connecting with people, right? And like you said, not turning your nose up at people. Not judging people just because of how they look or what they did or things like that. Because all that's important. I mean, that's irrelevant, right? If you're trying to make yourself and trying every day to do better, then that's all that matters.
No, man, I appreciate you sharing that, and just kind of going into that, because like that's a part of our story. You know what I mean, in terms of the African American story, and like, I feel like you're a success story in that, in the sense of like that did happen, but like isn't that's not who you know what I mean? Like that is one dimension of who you are, you know what I'm saying? You're a entrepreneur, you're a husband, a father, a leader. And I'm not going to take away some of your talking points, but it's just like there are a lot of other things that embody who you are. And I think the encouragement for Grace to Cultivate is like, how do we even, and I was even challenged on this recently, like what about taking even some of the concepts of what I'm doing with 12 Ways and put it in things like vocational rehab, and putting it in towards different programming that may be desiring of kind of seeing that visual and seeing people who have walked that path in the same way. While that was a part of their journey, it's not all of the journey. You know what I mean? And I think that's a big part of what we have to do. I think is that, and I really feel like sometimes it may seem unfair because we African Americans, we have this almost responsibility. We don't have to do it, but it's like it's our mothers, it's our fathers, it's our cousins, it's our sisters, it's our brothers. Like we can't just turn our backs on people who are just like us. You know what I mean? Specifically in a world where there's so many odds that are stacked against us, going back even as far back slavery, going back. It's deeper than what's on the surface. So we can go in on that, but
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that for sure. It's important. All right. All right. So this question is about the economy of words. How would you explain what you do as a professional in one sentence? Then come back, and then how would you explain what you do as a professional in one word?
So the sentence, as a professional, I am someone who helps shape and define entrepreneurial ideas.
So,
And for the word, initially I was thinking mentor. I like mentor, but I'm gonna say networker. I'm gonna just say networker. All right. I'm gonna say networker.
And I love that. I love how even throughout the podcast, like you're learning, you're learning yourself, and that's what I love about podcasts, man. It's its own kind of learning vehicle, but done in a very relational way. So I really enjoy it. All right, so we're gonna go into things you love and things you don't love. So let's start with the first side. What would you say you love the most about your job?
Being able to be in an environment where I'm around students all the time. Right? I love being able to connect with students and see their growth. As I mentioned before, it's just, I mean, we talked about it that we were at Sheridan too, that, it's cool to see young people when they reach when they move from the very beginning to the very end of their like student journey. That's real cool. I love seeing that. So it's like, this is the third class that I've seen all the way through from freshman to senior, right? That I've seen like go from freshman level to senior and graduate. And so it's always real cool seeing that. And that's, if I say I had to love anything about my job, that's one of the biggest things, to see the students grow. Not only just in the classroom, but like even in their ideas. Like this guy we've been working with on some of his ideas since he was a freshman. And now he's at a point where he's working on getting it patent. He's getting his invention patent. It's another guy, he had an idea. He didn't necessarily he didn't know what he wanted to do, but he knew he wanted to do something because he wanted to own his own business. And now he's at a point where he's developing the code for his app that he's going to bring out. Right. So that's real cool. Like seeing stuff like that. And I mean, he started this was in 2018. Right. So seeing that where his progress with that now that's beautiful. The challenges, as of recent, the biggest challenge has been virtual learning. Just you can't connect with people the same way. I mean, it's convenient, but it's just not the same, man. Right? The face-to-face interactions, the gestures, the body language. At one point they told us we couldn't hand out papers and we couldn't pass out stuff. We couldn't collect work before. We like you turn in your work, grade it, and hand it back to you. Can't even do that now, right? So a big part of that for me was that would be a tool that I would use to learn who students were,
Yeah.
Right? So I can recognize and put face with name. Like when I'm handing back papers, I'm calling your name and I hand it to you, and I know now I can recognize it. But that became harder when everything went virtual. So that's one of the biggest challenges. And I think it's just less engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I mean, it's cool, man. It's cool. And as far as the entrepreneurial side, it's just one of the biggest challenges starting off was that this was a brand new program. So we had to try to start it from the very beginning, like the ground up. And so it took a lot of legwork in that. And me still working on some things that we need to correct. But I do like the direction we're heading in.
Yeah. And I can hear the passion in your voice, like, just really wanting to see students win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And I think students can receive that too. Like students, I feel like, there's that cultural expression of like game recognized game. Like I feel like students know who's there for them and they know who's there for other reasons and stuff like that. Like they can discern it almost.
Yeah. You spot on. And that's one of the reasons why, I mean, I love being able to work at South Carolina State. So that's one of the reasons why, I mean, I'm not saying I haven't tried to move on. I haven't tried to move on or anything like that, but it's been a consideration at one point. But I thought about it. I said, I love my role here, right? Being able to connect with students that look like me, students that come from different backgrounds. A lot of these students are first-time college students, so they come in class and need a lot of rough around the edges, right? So you see them, and that's who I was when I came to school. I was just, I'd come to class late, dressed all kind of ways, and it just wasn't, And then when I graduated and I saw the value of, what college actually delivers to you, and it's like, man, I missed a lot of opportunities, things I could have done that I didn't do, capitalize on opportunities that I didn't capitalize on. And those are the things that, I want students to grasp early on. But the other side of that coin is, so I went to a conference. Back in 2018, and it was to get minority teachers or Black and Latino and Hispanic teachers in the classroom for all of the big colleges, like the big, PWI colleges, right? So, and it was crazy, man. The conference, it was packed. It's called a PhD project. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
No,
yeah, so it's geared toward helping, again, blacks, Latino and Hispanic professors to get their PhDs, and particularly in business, but to go to different colleges, bigger universities, because there's a lack of representation, and women as well, right? So it's a lot of different people there, right? But there's a lack of representation in those classrooms, in those bigger universities. And if you got a class with, I know at Winthrop, I mean, it was a lot of Black students at Winthrop as well, but I mean, you might have a class with like maybe 50 or 60 students, and it's probably like 5 or 6 of them are Black, right? And everybody else is white. And so it's not that it's not that you don't enjoy those experiences the same. You definitely have to learn. It's a big culture shock, especially coming from Orangeburg. We came from OW. I mean, it was a handful of white students at OW, right? And it was like 2,200 kids, so everybody else is Black. So that's all you used to in Orangeburg, right? It's predominantly Black. So and you get to a school like Winthrop where everybody around you is different, different races and stuff. So they need more representation there. So that's the other side of the coin, that you love being around Black students and being at HBCU, because like you said, you recognize them, but then at the same time, there's a need for, Black professors in those settings as well, because, the professors that I do remember from Winthrop, the ones that I like vividly remember, they were Black, right? And that's just because they were Black, right? And I can always remember them. But yeah, it's one of those things.
No, I mean, bro, like you said a mouthful, right? So first off, with the PhD project, I'm gonna find that. I'm gonna put it in the comments on my YouTube. So if people want to go back to it and they want to refer back to it, they can do that. But another thing you said that I thought was really, really profound was the fact that, so we grew up, and this was for the viewer, we grew up in a place called Orangeburg, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And sadly, for some people, going to South Carolina State, or even some Brevard's platform, but more so South Carolina State, was even like a negative quote unquote connotation kind of thing. Yeah. Sadly, for some people. But when you think about the history of African Americans in this country, like, bro, like it's it's a miracle like that we're able to do what we're able to do and impact the communities that we're able to impact. And so it's dope that you're there, and whether you're there for a season or there longer, like even at the time you're there, I know you've made a great impact. But I think one of the things that's amazing about that is what is our role on a global and a national scale? Whereas you got things like the PhD project that are literally trying to find the Zach Thomases of the world. They're literally trying to find students like that because they know that that minority representation is happening throughout the world. And like, that's our backyard, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like your mom, one of your moms is Dr. Barbara Adams, who like, you know what I mean? Like just all the different credentials and from grant writing and the things that she's done. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I know her as Dr. Adams, who invited me to Zach's birthday party. You know what I mean? Or thinking about like, you know, we talked about Mr. Z and talking about all the different Black professionals that we saw. My dad, my mom, you know, selling insurance. Like these are Black professionals that were just like, oh, that's such and such mom, that's such and such dad. It's like, no, like that's a big deal globally, culturally, whatever. And so I really appreciate you breaking that down because you're absolutely right. Like I think we sadly will downgrade our own legacies for a variety of different reasons. You can say self-hatred, you can say a lot of different things. But the reality is, man, from per capita, this amount of people that Orangeburg has produced, Arthur Wilkerson has produced, Dr. State, Clapham, so many others, it's phenomenal, man. And so, just hats off to you in terms of what you do in the entire staff. And so that is the side that you would say that you love the most. From the other end of the coin, what would you say is the biggest challenge in the work?
You know, staying relevant, all right, staying current. You know, so you asked the question to go back and like, you know, learn some different things, or what would be a part of my story, or how would I include that as part of my story, things that I would learn. I think part of that is you know, you have to continuously learn, and that was a concept that I didn't grasp, you know, early on, as soon as I started this career, right? As soon as I got into this job. But that's something that has to happen. You have to continuously learn, read, see what other people are doing, adapt, and figure out, you know, what are some ways that I can keep what we're doing fresh. What are some opportunities that I can capitalize on? And those one of those things that, I mean, I talk about all the time, SWOT analysis. So, you know, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What are some things that are out there that there may be a space for us, but we may not recognize, or what are some things that we're doing that maybe we can revamp or that we can change. And so that's been like one of the biggest challenges, staying on top of those things, and, you know, letting people that, I mean, again, we work with community members as well, but, you know, we work with a lot of students to be on campus, and, you know, students have this idea that, again, I'm gonna come in and make all this money, I'm gonna do all these things, but again, you have to put in the legwork and the preparation, and that's what a lot of students aren't willing to do, and it takes time, right? So again, I talked about this of one of the students that he came in with this fresh idea of what he wanted to do, and he wanted to develop this new technology, and I mean, he kind of had, you know, idea that he wanted to do these things when he first got here, but he didn't know what to do. But now he's at a point where he's been working on these things piece by piece, chipping away year to year. And now he's at a point where he's working on getting a patent for his idea. So I mean, you know, he's actually in the patent process. He's you know working on getting those things approved. So I mean, it's great to see stuff like that. And I think that's a big challenge for a lot of students, and for us, is that we want them to know, okay, this is what you do and this is what you don't do, and this is what it's going to lead to. But you have to stick with it. All right. And so, you know, that's one of the challenges. And then, I guess as of late, like I said, the pandemic kind of put a halt on a lot of different things because we can't interact face to face on certain things. One thing that we were working on doing, which was growing, was helping with the expo. We had an expo. We have an expo on campus. I mean, you was a part of one of them that we had. That was really good. And that was actually starting to traject, you know, further. We had worked with SGA at one point, and we had a lot of people that were actually coming to these events, but, you know, that slowed down when the pandemic hit. So that's been a big challenge for us. But I was one thing that we talked about that I definitely wanted to mention to us, and we talked about the impact of social media, and, you know, it's like you said, there's nothing wrong with students now. There's nothing wrong with inventing chairs or inventing processes to, food. Like one of the things that we've been doing this past year was working on a farm project and learning different things about farms. We're actually going to visit farms in the next 2 weeks. We're going to visit 4 farms. And I want to plug that too before we close out. I would definitely want to shout that out.
Please.
Yeah, and I'll send you the stuff so you can post it too.
Yeah.
But we're gonna visit some farms, man. But that's not the most appealing thing. But it's a lot of money in farming, right? Over 50%. I think I want to say over 50% of the entire economy of South Carolina is based on agriculture. Right? State itself is agriculture, right? They have 1890 resource and extension program that's geared toward agriculture and agribusiness. So I mean, it's a lot of money in that, man. It's a big field and it's wide open. But people don't want to do that because again, it's not the sexy or attractive type of work, or this, but somebody has to do it. I saw a post, it was funny. It was like, it's no knock to anybody that's rapping, anybody that sings, anything like that. But it's like we got enough rappers. We need some electricians. We need some plumbers. You know what I mean? It's a lot of work that's available that people just don't want to capitalize on because hey, it is what it is. But
Dude, I'm go ahead, finish.
No, I appreciate stuff like that.
Absolutely, and as I'm doing, I'm just taking notes. So several layers, right? When you talk farming, please send those links, and we can put that in the link as well. So a lot of people don't realize this, but when we think about South Carolina State agricultural and mechanical, that's what the original name. So I enjoy history, and one of the really cool histories that most people don't even interact with, Dr. William Hine, who I believe recently got the emeritus status at South Carolina State University. He was a history professor, and he wrote a book on South Carolina State history. It's essentially South Carolina State's role as Jim Crow University, Jim Crow South. And one of the things that he breaks down is the fact that not only was South Carolina State have its roots in agriculture and mechanical, it was a farming school, but even the time that it was started was around the time, I want to say it's like even a few months earlier than Clemson. And so whatever you're seeing at Clemson right now, like technically you could argue you should be seeing this South Carolina State in terms of public policy. And so in terms of the resources and disbursements. And so that in and of itself is just like, it will blow your mind when you think about the farming history. We also had another guest, I think she was episode 8 or 9, Dr. Mary Jones Wilson, who's from South Carolina as well. She started her own beauty hair care line with this podcast on, I think, episode 8. And one of the things she broke down was the fact that she said, so her background is in biology, public health, and gardening. And one of the things that's how she makes her hair care products, because she knows all 3 of those. But one of the things that she broke down was the fact that African Americans sometimes have a stigma with farming because of slavery. Mm-hmm. That what is it, and on some level it's just a sad deal, but like how do we break that stigma of being able to have a conversation about some of the holistic properties that come with farming, even the economic possibilities. Like old school, I think about old deacons in my church used to sell watermelons, and even like the stigma of watermelons, and but it was a form of economic development, entrepreneurship that was allowed within our communities. And so, like, man, it's a lot that we're up against, really, because of some of the social stigma that we face. But there's a lot of opportunity. Just going back to your point, there's a lot of opportunity there. So I appreciate you breaking that down. All right. What steps must a person accomplish to become certified or respected in this profession? Excuse me.
Respect. I guess respect it. You just got to give respect to get respect. I wholeheartedly believe that you got to be respectful. No. Right. So you just be respectful. I think that respect will come if you're a respectful person. And I guess credentials. Me myself, I have a master's. So I got my master's from State. So I was happy to be here at State and learn things that I did learn while I was here. But just experience you would either want from, or that you would gain from having a master's degree, or working in the field, right? If you've been in corporate, right? If you've been in a corporate setting already, or if you run your own business, right? Those things, all the added experience and that, seeing, ups and downs, those things help. But you want to be comfortable with not knowing, because that's kind of where I was at when I first got started. Like, where I didn't know how to build this, or what, well, we had a team of people that helped, but I didn't know what this would look like. All right, so we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of people that have come along to help. The Fultons, they've been really supportive of our program. The Edwards, the Quincy, and his pops, they've been really supportive of our program. Mr. Middleton, a guy by the name of Dave Kerford. We've even had connections with people at Claflin, right? Some faculty at Claflin, they've helped too. So it's been real cool to have support of those persons, because like I said, you want to build on those connections. I just think I really want to kind of harp on that, man. It's just you have to be able to build on those connections. You just have to. You have to be able to build on the connections that you have. Be able to find the connections and present yourself. That's one of the things. Like I said, man, college itself is important. It's important for a number of reasons. One of the main reasons is so that you can experience different things and meet new people. Of course, you want to learn, but then you also want to learn how to present. And I think that's a lot of what students are now suffering with, especially with the virtual learning, which again is why it's a challenge, because students don't have to, they're not comfortable with presenting. They're not comfortable with showcasing themselves, and that's okay. But it's a skill that you can learn. And once you learn how to do that, it becomes a lot easier. So that'll help you connect with different people and open up a lot of doors, because it's like the old saying, it's not about what you know. Sometimes it's about who you know. All right, and that's really important, because those people can advocate for you, or they can point you in new directions, and they can help you with new opportunities. And that's always important.
And so I like to add a little context to it, because I always think, what if a person is engaging this interview for the first time? And so you said some names that that are pretty normal within the Orangeburg conversation, but the global conversation. So Sydney and Jackie Fulton, they're restaurateurs, African Americans that actually, to my knowledge, NC State alumnus in their own right. And just personal story, they were my second employers after my parents. I worked at Popeye's Chicken and Biscuits, and on a personal level. And one of the things that they actually did was they actually gave some of the seed money for Grace to Cultivate. They gave about $1,000 to get us started. And so that's just a testament to what they've been doing. One of the first supporters for me on a personal level, Mr. Kim Middleton, no relation, but the Middleton name in Orangeburg is phenomenal. I think it was a 1992 article in the Wall Street Journal that talks about Mr. Earl Middleton being one of the largest proprietors of real estate in the state of South Carolina, definitely in Orangeburg, but even in South Carolina. And so, man, it's a rich legacy of entrepreneurship that comes out of, specifically Black entrepreneurship, that comes out of the hub that you're talking about. And I just wanted to add a little context and kind of give them their flowers as well, as it's important. Okay, so moving on, how does a person negotiate salary or the value of their services in this career choice?
So there's a few ways you can do it. I mean, obviously you want to be able to look at the broad spectrum of people that are in areas similar to you, right? That's one of the easiest things to do. Just kind of go. It's a lot of tools online that you can utilize, where you can type in a search, salaries of people in this type of role, and you can just kind of compare the numbers. Obviously, you got to look at where you're going to live. Right? So if you're going to be in certain places, you want to look at where you're going to live. The cost of living. Obviously, now with the direction of the economy, you definitely want to consider, cost of living to negotiate your salary. You want to value that, of course. What would it take for you to live? Your personal debt or personal, financial, situations. You want to, evaluate that. The workload. All right, what does the workload include? And then kind of what skills do you bring to the table, right? You have to put a value on your skills. I mean, obviously, we want to talk about what we can and can't do. You're not going to know how to do everything in your job anyway, but that's where you have to be able to know how to learn and adapt and take the time to learn. And so if you know that you have those skills, then you should definitely put a value towards that. I would always tell people too, don't settle for the first number that's given to you. There always, if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. Don't know unless you ask. So if you want to be able to put out, what you believe you should get. And if the job really wants you, then they'll figure out a way to get that for you. And if not, it can be a combination of a few different things like benefits, insurance, healthcare plans, things like that, the matching of your 401k, things like that, right? That's always important. And those are the intangible things that, don't necessarily show up on your paycheck, but they help. Right? So.
I mean, I think that's great advice, and I think it's a cultural communication that we just have to do, because the reality is, a lot of times for us, we're having, just in general, as African Americans, minorities, we just happen to have a job, and we're happy to be there. But the reality is, like, a lot of these systems and organizations, nonprofits, for-profits, what have you, they have the resources to pay, and if nothing else, they need to take care of the most valuable resource, which are human resources. And so,
man, you want to know what's
important.
crazy? You want to know what's
Yes.
crazy? Honestly, the turnover rate for this generation and generations under us, they don't care, man. If people quit, man, they'll quit fast, man. If the job is not making them happy, man, they will leave. I know plenty of people that have left numerous jobs, right, just because something just didn't make them happy, or they. And the economy is suffering because of that now. I mean, a lot of people, you see that now. Job rates. It's not that the jobs aren't there, but people don't want to work them. Employers get to a point where they don't value the work, or they don't want to help or accommodate, what people are asking for, man. And I think now, this is one of the beautiful things. This is one of the beautiful things about the pandemic. I think now people are taking more charge in the value and what they bring to the company, which is important, which is what I don't think especially a lot of Black people, what I don't think they did before. They would just kind of go with the flow, it is what it is. The pandemic opened up a lot of opportunities for people, hustle wise, and just trying to, find new ways to make money, but also knowing what not to settle for. And so that's really important.
Yeah. No, I mean, bro, that you I feel like have given the trailer for what Grace to Cultivate, what my hope and my vision for where I think it can go. I want to do things like that, like leadership workshops, and going, and I probably go back and get my master's, and like I want to be in that space where I can help companies be able to think critically about how they treat their employees. I think when you talk to different employers, one of the things you always hear, well, 10 years ago, we did it worse than this, and you should be happy. And that's just the normal response. And it's like, dude, you don't understand. Like, if a kid can go online right now and make enough to provide for their family, like, why do they don't need to deal with you no more? You know what I mean? Like, it's important for the viability of your company to adapt to, like, how do you show love to your employees, which is it's sad. It shouldn't be a sad thing, but it really is. People don't.
That's the reality,
value.
That's the reality of where we are, man. And and again, that's one of the things that, again, a lot of people, I mean, they're still realizing that to this day, where businesses were started out of this pandemic because people knew, okay, I'm not going back to work. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And that kind of, I mean, that's what opened the door for me for day trading. That's how I got started day trading. Yeah. And that's when I started learning more about investing, period. And I always, hear the term invest and, pull in, make money, let your money make money for you and all this and that. But I really didn't understand the fullness of it. And it wasn't until the pandemic hit and my homeboys, little baby, Chris Smalls. And Tierras, Blue.
Yes.
So they came to me with the opportunity to learn how to day trade. So that's it was. I mean, that's one of the best things that ever happened to me, man. Because that's something that I learned now, is helping with unlimited earning potential, right? So that I know I can go in the market and be able to make money, and I understand what the market does, and I understand factors that move the market. And it was, having been day trading now 2 years, it's been a journey, right? It's ups and downs and it's peaks and valleys, but now I'm really like, I know that I'm headed in the trajectory. I'm headed up, right? So I see the success of where it's gonna go, and that's part of the journey. But I might not have taken that serious had not the pandemic hit, because I knew I was home. So I was home every day. This is something I can learn in my spare time. I got a lot of free time because I'm home. I got my computer in front of me, so take advantage of it. So that's been what that was for me. It's been a blessing, man. It's been a blessing.
Sure. Okay. So, all right. So this is the time machine question. Based on what you know now about your vocation, what advice would you give yourself if you can go back on the first day of the job?
Reach out to more businesses early on. Mm-hmm. Connect with other entrepreneurship centers early on, and gain that advice from them. They're always more than willing to share and help, but you just got to kind of put yourself out there. And so I definitely would have done that. Tell myself, hey, do this early. Also, just structuring systems for people to launch their businesses, putting that structure in place a lot sooner. It wasn't really in place when we first got started. So I would say, hey, just do this a little bit sooner. We're at that point now, but just a little bit tougher. Once you get it, because so many things happen at one time. And so day-to-day stuff is gonna, throughout the semester time, it fluctuates, right? Different programs, things that you're gonna do throughout the semester are gonna fluctuate. And I would have told myself, hey, before the ball really got rolling, hey, make sure these systems are in place before you get the ball rolling. But it's cool. Learn on the fly, right? I say learn on the fly, learn as you go. So
that's real. And I think that advice is so important. And I guess it's part of what you do in your mentorship of being willing to go there and share those things to others is important. When you start thinking about in-game retirement, how do you prepare to one day transition from your current role?
Do I think I'm gonna retire from this position at an old age? No, I think I'm gonna be done with this. I'm gonna be done with this at some point, right? Over the next few years, right? And I want to make sure that whoever's gonna be the person after me, that it's not me. I don't want to give them myself. I want it to be fresh for them, so they can come in with their own ideas. But I want to make sure that they, kind of have the competency to not only think about the entrepreneurial side of it, but also think about the people that you're going to connect with as well. So I want to make sure, if I do have a hand in helping who's going to replace me, definitely being able to see what kind of connection they have with the people. And then for me, I'm transitioning out of this into my own ventures. I'm going to have, I already have one venture now, and I'm working on at least 2 more, so that by the time I leave here, I have one that's sustainable enough that can match what I'm making now, and then I can live off of that. And then the other 2, I can just help grow those and develop those. Yeah. So that's like I said, a few years down the line, but hopefully sooner than later.
Well, I mean, it's great to have a plan. I think there's some people just don't have plans at all. And so it's great to
2025 was my goal. All right, 2025, but I believe it may happen sooner than that. 2025 was my goal, and I'll step away and then focus on my own projects and my own businesses. So yeah,
it's dope that you got a plan, man. Okay. So this is called the Cultivate Countdown. The goal is to talk to each professional and basically get advice from a practitioner, somebody who's actually doing the work. What would you say are the essential steps to your job?
You're definitely going to check emails. You're definitely going to make calls. You're going to be, I don't want to say cold calling, not really cold calling, right? You know what cold calling is?
I mean, yeah, I do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. Exactly. See who wants to do what, but you got to be able to talk to people, man. That's just I mean, and of course do your research on people that you're talking to, because what's going to happen is you're going to know certain things about a job or about somebody that you're calling, but you may not know everything about it. But at least if you have something that can help you initiate the conversation, or if you know how to approach people, and say, hey, I want to know what it is that you do, and then figure out not only what they do, but maybe how you can fit what you're doing into what they're doing, or how it can be a smooth transaction both ways, right? You want to be able to benefit them, but they also want to be able to benefit you. So you want to be able to, kind of have that list of what you should ask them, what you should say to certain people. But like I said, the essentials that you need to have, you got to be able to talk to people. That's one of the biggest things. And kind of plan things out, right? So you want to have a timeline. So, it's one of the things that we do in the beginning of the year. We make out a timeline. Do we hit everything? No, but we try to make sure we hit everything on that list. So we create a timeline of things that we want to do, objectives, and then we put dates behind those things. So yeah, just kind of staying on top of that day to day.
Yeah, and something when you talk about cold call, and we talked about some way early in the interview or pre-interview. I make a joke of it, and I'm actually writing a book right now where the fathers can communicate to the kids, but I call it the boom clickety. It sounds stupid, boom clickety, but it's that simple. It's like you pick up the phone, boom click, you put it down. Pick up the phone, boom click, put it down. There's an execution side of business that isn't social media, that isn't bells and whistles. It's not fanfare, but it's the core of how you build new relationships. You gotta literally call, email, have direct contact with strangers, and like say, hey, this is how I can create value for you. And this is the essence of how we actually do business. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I think you talked about Mr. Kim Middle. I feel like he could do his own like seminar on it, like you know what I mean. But like the people who you respect in business will tell you, and you have seen it kind of even throughout their lives, is just like, like they go hard. They go hard in the preparation phases that nobody else can see, because it's almost like even and I'm working on a Kickstarter video as well. It's like I want to be able to communicate to people that though you may see the fanfare, that's the core of it is the hard work, is the grind, is the getting up every morning and getting after it. That's what makes your business go.
Yeah, and then the follow through as well. That's
follow through.
That was a challenge for us at one point too. Just sticking with the follow through of delivering on what we say we're going to deliver on. And again, it's not always easy, and we've had some ups and downs with that as well. But I mean, like you said, man, it's just you got to be able to be committed to that. Right? So coming into this is what you have to sign up for, and it's fine. Right? It's fine.
All right, one motivational thought. All right, this is going to be on your meme underneath your name and your picture and that sort of thing. But what would you say is the one motivational quote for your job or for you?
I got a lot of them. I can't just pick one, man.
Like I said, okay. So let me explain why. So how about this? So the reason why I recommend you. So I want you can say all of them on the podcast, right? But the reason why I would say one is if you got 5 of them, you don't have any of them. You know what I mean? Like what makes it punt is like the one that is you. You know what I mean? So, but like say all of them, but I would recommend just doing one for the meme.
Got you. Keep going. Don't stop. Just keep going. Right? Don't stop. Just keep going. And I guess I got a list of them, but but I guess the one that comes to mind in regards to financial literacy and investing, both short-term investing and long-term investing. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. That's always a good principle. Being able to be successful at trading takes a lot of patience. So if you're going to day trade, of course, I give my handles and everything, my social media handles and stuff like that. I'll definitely be able to, share some information about what I know, connect you with some people, if whoever's interested, if you want to learn, and just some of the resources that I've had has been really helpful me in my trading journey. So learning how to the transfer of wealth goes from the patient from the inpatient to the patient. So you have to be very patient, and that's how you have long-term success in trading. And in the long-term investing, if you're talking about for down the line, 60 plus years old, you want to have millions of dollars. The easiest way to do it is just buy and hold. All right, so you invest money into good index funds, the S&P 500, the Amazons, the Googles, the Facebooks. Those aren't going anywhere. You invest into those companies and you just hold. All right, you just hold. And I mean, yeah, it's risk involved, but the market always rebounds, right? So the market now is going down, but it always rebounds. And I heard a quote that it was, would you rather buy, if you have two hamburgers, both of them are the exact same, would you rather buy one for $10 or would you rather buy for $50? And the answer is always $10, right? You want to buy it for the cheapest price possible. So as the market falls, just buy more, right? That's the time to buy because a lot of people are scared, so they're selling. Knowing that the market is going to change and go back up. It's a history of doing it. It's going to go down and it goes back up. Buy it at the lowest price possible and just wait for it to go back up, right? And you buy and hold. And that's financial advice. But as far as like keep going, just don't stop, keep going. That's anything. If you're passionate about something, if you love doing something, if you enjoy it, man, just don't stop, right? You see success, throughout that, right? And success isn't necessarily the end result. The success is the process throughout, right? The success is in the process, and but you don't get to that unless you keep going. Right? So
that's great.
And I got a quote my man Ken Middleton, man, Mr. Middleton, man, he's a really good man. The effort must be ridiculous. He always says that. Mr. Middleton always says that effort must be ridiculous. And if you put in the work, you may not see the results right away, but you keep putting in the work, and it's going to happen. Right? Whether it be for you or for your legacy, it's going to happen.
Awesome. Yeah, man. We feel like we just been chopping it up, and like I said, we are at the end of the podcast. We're going through all the questions. Are there any final thoughts? And you talked about places people can get in contact with you, but if you could just make it explicit, like what you want in terms of how you want people to connect and just moving forward. So, what are your final thoughts?
So, it's been a pleasure, man. It's always good talking to you. A quick note about you. You always been a polished brother, man. You always
okay.
Listen, it was what's her name? Miss Williams. What's her name? Miss Williams in 6th grade. Or that was her name? Miss Williams.
Was it Cordelia Kane-Hampton?
What was her name?
What did she teach? What did she
taught
do?
math. I think she taught math when we was in 6th grade. What was her name?
Okay, we had flexibility is the quality of a gifted child. We had that one. I don't remember her. What was her name? I can't remember her name. We had.
Wasn't it Williams?
I thought Miss Hemby taught us. It
might have been Miss Hemby. I think it might have been. It might have been Tina.
Okay.
I don't know, but yeah. So
we had James. We had Tant.
What is it? I can't think of her name, man.
Anabinet. We had.
It might have been Tina. It might have been Tina.
Yeah.
But now I was thought about we had this presentation. We had to do this presentation, and so we'd always be in class, chopping it up, talking crazy. You know what I'm saying? So we was just talking regular, right? And then and you gave this presentation, man. You sounded like Martin Luther King. You was presenting. It was like, man, you know, second talk like that. Hey man, you always well put it on, man. But you know how to turn it on, man. You know how to present yourself well, man. So I'm happy to see what that's turned into now. You know what I mean? Like, I see what you're doing, man. You're doing some good stuff, man. You're doing some.
I appreciate the encouragement, man.
I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to be a part of it, man. Thank you for having me too. Final thoughts, man. Just there's gonna be some down moments in your life, right? There's gonna be a lot of down moments in your life. There's gonna be some ups and downs, but you keep going, like, because you don't know whose life you're impacting. Right? There's a lot of people watching you, a lot of people that's connected to you, that's dependent on you, and things that you're gonna share in your testimony are going to be very impactful for someone you may not even know, right? Or it may be somebody that you're very close with. And it's the ripple effect, right? So it creates ripples, and then those ripples then impact other people, right? And that's important. So just, don't stop. And even though it gets hard, it's going to get hard. And that's part of your story, right? And so you thank God for that. And ultimately, the end goal is so that everybody can know who Christ is, right? So we talk about, knowing your identity in God. That's what he wants. He wants you to point it all to him. It's all going to lead to him, right? And so your testimony or your life story is going to eventually impact someone that's around you or somebody that you may not even know. So just keep going, right? It's never too bad, right? And that's it. Oh, my handles. If you want to reach me on social media, Facebook is Zachary M. Thomas, ZACHARY M. Thomas. And on Instagram is ZT_88. On my Instagram, I post a lot of music. So I love music. Post a lot of samples. I listen to, like, that's what I'm really, really big on for the last number of years. But like I post a lot of music. So if you see my social media handle, you're gonna see a lot of music.
Absolutely. Oh, and I mean, just going even the synopsis that you gave, I feel like that's for me what Grace to Cultivate. It's a blog, right? It's initially a blog. It's going to hopefully turn into other things. But I think that what's cool about the social media space is it gives us space to talk about everything. And so when I talk about Grace, I'm talking about what I believe God, Triune God, and many other people have invested in my life so that we can see that type of building. But I also think it's really cool to be able to just kind of have a soapbox where you can talk about all the life skill kind of constructs that are needed for holistic flourishing for human beings, and to have people like yourself on to represent an expert opinion and an expert critique of what's going on, and to invite users into different opportunities like the PhD projects and other things. And so that's why I really like podcasts, broadcasts, things like that. So just in brief, man, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to give me this that expertise, analysis, breakdowns, but at the same time, just be yourself. And so I think that's really cool. So I appreciate you coming on the platform, Zach. Thank you so much.
Man, no problem, man. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here, man. I'm thank you for having me, and I'm happy to be here, man. What's up with the finals, man?
Honestly, what's crazy about the finals right now, man? I'm a lean to experience. I always lean to experience because it's just like, I don't know who was saying it. One of the podcasts I was listening to, I think it was Kenny Smith, was up on All the Smoke, and one of the things he talked about was the fact that you don't have the same anxiety level. Like, the first time you're there, you're anxious because you're on the biggest stage in the world, and I feel like that's where Boston Celtics are right now. Like that kid, what's the Kobe, the guy who
Tatum.
Who's that?
Tatum.
Tatum, yeah. I feel like they're talented enough to win. But man, when you talk about Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, like when you talk about like their level of experience going, I mean, they were this is a team that had a better record than Jordan. You know what I mean? And they lost to LeBron knows, and like they've seen it all, man. And so I think that extra layer will get them over the top. But man, that Celtics team, they were really cool to watch, and they're a very good team. But I just got to go with experience. So I'm gonna go with the Warriors. I'm gonna go with the Warriors, and I'm gonna go with Warriors in 7.
I got Warriors, but it depends on who wins Game 3. If the Celtics win Game 3, I got Warriors in 6. And if the Warriors win Game 3, I got Warriors in 5. Like you said, I lean toward the experience as well. They don't have no answer for Curry, man. They don't have no answer for him, man. And I think what's happened is now they've played into their hand because they know, okay, if that was their best shot, Game 1, because they won Game 1, right? We know how to prepare for that, right? I mean, like I said, Golden State knows how to prepare for. If that was their best shot, they're going to give you consistency every night. Game 1, I think they dropped 108. In game 2, they dropped 107.
Yeah.
It's going to be those same type of numbers everything. All right, and I think they have enough. I think they have enough depth on their bench, and I think it's going to help them. Whereas the Celtics, like you said, it just, I don't know if it's going to be consistent. I know for maybe Brown and Tatum, it may be consistent for them, but the rest of them guys, man, I just don't see that happening, right? And I think even with the Warriors, even if one of their best players like Curry they can't afford for Steph Curry to play bad. But even if Jordan Poole doesn't have a good night, they still put up 108 points. Right? Even if Klay Thompson isn't mediocre, they still put up 107 points. And I think that's just going to be, that consistency is going to keep them where maybe Boston they won't. Right? It's going to be some ups and downs. I don't know. But I want to see how this game 3 happens, man. It's going to be big. Game 3 is going to be big, man. So I think whoever wins game 3 is going to carry over into game 4. I'm thinking the Warriors will probably win, though.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like these are all your layers, man. All the way that you're going from the entrepreneurship side to the music side to the, what I mean? Like this I feel like it was a chop up back at like OW or Park. Like it's just, that's why I love podcasts, man, because it allows you to talk about all these different things, but also to shine a spotlight on some positive things that are happening in the community and wherever you are. So that's what's up.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yes, sir. All right, have a good one.
You too. Thanks.